Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Marvel's Thunderbolts. My name is Daniel. I am one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me are my fellow Thunderbolts. It's Anthony.
I'm a Thunderbolt. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm just a bad guy, but I'm also a good guy.
I mean, you're a bad guy with a heart of gold. It's like,
Yeah,
you're
it's
not
true.
bad guy. You also sounded like you were going to do like David Harbour's
I also was
accent
going to
for
do a
second.
karate chop for
You're
some
like,
reason.
I Thunderbolts. And also joining us is Shahbaz. Hello, Shahbaz.
Hey guys, I'm a Thunderbolt.
No, just very chill, very casual. Just say,
I'm
I am
Bob.
what I am.
I'm Bob.
You're Bob. I'm Bob.
Just
I'm
here
Shay.
to hang
What's
out.
up, guys? How you doing?
Hey.
We are here to talk all about Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts film. This has been a film that we have been waiting for a very long time. I feel like we've seen it at every single event that we've gone to over the last year and a half, from both CinemaCons to D23 to Comic-Con, and now finally we're here to talk all about it. Do you guys remember when that concept art came out, like almost 3 years ago? It was like 2.5 years ago. It was like Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Ghost, Taskmaster, Valentina, all of them on that concept art. And now we have seen the film. Of course, we're the movie podcast. You can catch brand new episodes all throughout the week with new interviews, reviews, discussions, and all the latest movies and series. We have so many incredible episodes out right now. We're going through The Last of Us week by week. So if you want a spoiler cast on everything going on in that world, you could join us here on YouTube or on the podcast feed. We also have our interviews out for everything that we've been up to, from Australia to Japan. We have been all over the globe this year, and we're so grateful and honored that we've been given these opportunities to do so. So if you want to see everything that we've been up to, check us out here on YouTube, on the podcast feed, and follow us on socials. Everything you need to know is in the show notes or description below, including our Discord. If you want to talk about Thunderbolts, if you want to get into all to the spoilers, to every little discussion on every scene and frame of this movie, we'll have our Discord channel open this week so you could dive in and talk with us all about it. Again, everything you need to know is in the show notes below. I want to say a huge thank you to our friends at Marvel Studios Canada for inviting us to watch the film and to participate in some really cool interviews. We have an interview with Pullman and Hannah John-Kamen out this week. You'll see that very, very soon. Do we have anyone else from the Thunderbolts? You're going to have to wait and see. Thunderbolts is in theaters this week. And again, it's crazy to think that it is already May. I was going to say, yeah, it's out May 2nd. That is a few weeks from now. No, it is this week. So we're already in the summer months. We are kicking off the summer movie season in full force, and this film stars a huge cast of characters, a lot who we've met before in other series, but that's enough for me. Let's start talking all about Thunderbolts. Shahbaz, I would love for you to start off the discussion. Let us know your first reaction to Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts, it's a breath of fresh air. It's a very refreshing Marvel movie. It's so different. Jake Schreier has made a very personal film. I didn't expect it to be so heavy. I didn't expect it to be so deep. It really talks about mental health. It really talks about loneliness that we all sometimes feel, and that void inside of us that we're always trying to just push further and further down because, we can get to the next day. We can deal with whatever tasks. We don't have to call on other people for help. This movie is about that, unexpected ragtag team of people who are all going through something, and all they really needed was that connection and that piece of family that binds them together and helps them get out of their loneliness. It's a beautiful film. I mean, right from the opening stunt sequence, that Florence Pugh jumping off the second tallest tower in the world, down to the hallway fights, to the way that the void will erase people off the planet. It's a stunning film, but it's got this cold look to it. It's almost haunting to look at in the most beautiful ways. I think the last couple of Marvel movies have suffered from a very green screen heavy, shot on a set look that they sometimes just feel like action figures on a stadium. Whereas here, I believe that they shot this on location. I believe that they had cameras rolling and it wasn't just computers kind of doing all the work for us. And on top of that, you have a cast that's so damn good. You have Florence Pugh, who is really grounding the hell out of this movie. She is what makes Thunderbolts Thunderbolt and lightning and everything all above. And then you have David Harbour, who is so funny and so relatable, and you just want to kind of give him the biggest bear hug imaginable because he's just such a sweet, lovable guy. And then on top of that, the rest of the cast, I mean, always seeing Sebastian Stan come back, he's just such a perfect Bucky. He's such a fantastic Winter Soldier. And, you know, seeing him in this new role, you could say, as a senator is very interesting. We got to see a little glimpse of it in Brave New World, but to really flesh it out here. There's other things as well in this movie that really, really work. I think some things that maybe don't work so well are a little bit of the pacing. I think it's a very dialogue-heavy film, and there's a lot of great action sequences, and they look great, but they take a little bit of time sometimes to build up to it. And sometimes I just kind of find myself like, okay, I'm a little bored right now, but I'm sure we're going to get to something really cool. And it could be I'm just really tired while watching it, and I was feeling the effects of that kind of percolated a lot more while watching it. But seeing Louis Pullman as Sentry, I thought was also just super, super cool. So really a lot of great things about Thunderbolts. I think it's one of the best Marvel movies in a very, very long time. And it's not only just a great Marvel film, it's just a great movie on its own. I understand the campaign behind the A24 style of marketing, the very indie level filmmaking. You see it a lot in the shots, you see it a lot in the score, and everything else that this movie kind of provides you.
I want to jump off with the director itself. So Jake Schreier, obviously, Shay, you mentioned this A24 style campaign that they did from everyone from the stars in front of behind the camera have all kind of been in that A24 world. And it's funny when that trailer drops because you're like, yeah, like everything that we've seen for Thunderbolts feels very different from a lot of what we've gotten from Marvel in the last few years. I want to say the last, truly director-driven film that we've gotten was, 2 years ago with Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, that is clear a James Gunn directed film. And really the last, Marvel film that I feel like that we've gone to be truly just like, hey, we shot a bunch of this. Like, obviously Guardians is taking place in space, but this feels tactile, this feels real. And then even before that, a lot of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which I was thinking about a lot in this film. I think also because Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in that film as well too, and it's kind of connecting the real worlds of the Marvel worlds to what's happening. But Jake Schreier, someone who he first got on my radar with a film called Robot and Frank, which I remember going to see at Cineplex back in 2012. And I love that movie. And I thought it was such a great, indie film. I went to go see with my dad, and never did I think that movie came out the same year as Avengers. Never did I think, hey, this director is going to be jumping into the MCU one day. But it's a really great move. And I think when you have a director who has such a clear vision and, like Shay said, right from the get-go, from that opening scene with Florence, with Yelena jumping off the building, and you're seeing the IMAX aspect ratio open. It's not just, one kind of aspect ratio throughout. It's moving a lot in the film. It looks so real. It didn't feel like, oh, like these are real stakes. These are real action set pieces is happening on camera. It's not a super action heavy film. I think a lot of this film, it uses the action very strategically throughout. It's something where we're going to really punch up some action set pieces, but we're going to use them sparingly. So when they do happen, it feels a lot more impactful. But yeah, I think what we've seen so far and what we've seen now with Thunderbolts, I was really surprised of how personal, how heartfelt, and also how emotional the story was that we ended up getting on screen.
Yeah, I felt like the action sequences, especially in the beginning of the film, showcase, like, they were really impressive. They showcase these heroes in such a different light. They had a lot of shadows built into the cinematography, a lot of unique camera angles, and especially with Yelena and her we'll say acrobatic skills. It really works in that first, I would say the first 30 minutes, 40 minutes of this movie, where you're introduced to all these mercenaries, and they're trying to kill each other. And the choreography between all of them just work on screen. I think for me, it happens after Bob is introduced. It starts to really slow down, and it actually starts to get really boring, where I'm like, I understand the personal touches and the mental health issues and all that stuff. But there's something missing where the focus of the story kind of loses where Bob is now introduced. It focuses so much on him, where I felt like what we got in the beginning, where it was like this political thriller and it was jumping back to Bucky and back and forth. And I'm like, oh, just continue with this. Once Bob shows up and Sentry, you lose all that. It almost becomes now it's the Sentry story. And I felt like almost like this movie, or Bob himself, should have been introduced as a post-credit sequence or something before, to kind of ease us into it, where we're introduced to such a very powerful character. Like the Sentry is a very powerful character. Like guy has the power of 10,000 exploding suns, as they say. So he is like the Superman of the MCU right now, till like other people show up. But I just felt like the story loses focus when Bob shows up. I understand like the idea of Bob and his, I guess, the mental illness and how it kind of connects to the loneliness and being forgotten and trying to overcome that, and how each of those characters that are in Thunderbolts has that unique characteristic. But it just slows so much down, where it's just like, whoa, I feel like this is a different movie now.
Yeah, and I love that you touch upon, the introduction of Sentry in that moment, because you're right, there, that like 45 minutes to an hour of being in the compound, I feel like could have been shrunken down a lot more. I get that it's a lot of character development. It's a lot about these characters. You're understanding a lot more about them, but it really slowed the pace of the film down. And while I was enjoying a lot of aspects of it because the comedy was great, the banter was great, I was still kind of like, oh, okay, is a lot of this film just going to be taking place in here? And that kind of worried me a bit, because again, it just felt a bit slow. I hope we get more of Sentry as a character. I really hope there's more understanding of it, because there's so much that can be done with that character. And you're right, if he was introduced almost kind of like how Adam Warlock was introduced as a post-credit sequence in Guardians 2, if we were kind of getting a bit more of a build-up to this character, that I think would have been really beneficial to him.
Yeah, and another character that I feel like kind of was put on the back burner was Bucky. I feel like as much as this is a Yelena story, the moment Bucky shows up, and we've seen the sequence on, like, I know the sequence is out on YouTube, where he kind of takes out a bunch of Humvees and kind of like does his Tom Cruise Terminator bike impression. He is such a great character that you wanted him more on screen. The moment he shows up, it's like, yes, Bucky, finally. Like, this guy is like,
Bucky!
He's the Winter Soldier. And it almost like felt like he's not the Winter Soldier. He's like this senator who, I don't understand the senator storyline. I feel like this is
congressman.
Congressman.
Guys, come on,
congressman storyline. It is such a thorough. Like, he's this they never elaborate anything on it. It's like he was elected. When was he elected? He's now part of this. He's doing like, what is his role in Congress? Like, he didn't feel like that story part of his that part of his story wasn't really set in foundation where this is what he's been doing.
No, definitely not.
But man, when Bucky shows up, you just feel like this is the MCU. Like, this guy, with the glasses, the long hair, he felt like Tom Cruise in MI2 with the bike sequence. And I just man, why wasn't he utilized more often than like all the other characters? And then, I just, maybe it's scheduling, maybe he's just, maybe it was just like he couldn't fit in right away. But he was a great, he's a great character to see on screen.
Yeah, and I think my biggest complaint with the film, yes, there's definitely pacing issues, but my biggest complaint, I think, stems from what we've just been talking about, where we're looking at, this congressman storyline, we're looking at the Valentina storyline, and I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus is great in this film, and I think every time we've seen her, she's been really fun, because you're like, oh, like, I don't know what to expect from her, what are we going to get from her? And now that we're finally kind of getting her shown off in this film, I don't think there was really enough there to show, okay, she is this antagonist. She's either the evil Nick Fury or she's whoever they want her to be. Anytime we kind of cut back to her, there were some fun moments, but I don't think we got enough to really pushing that side of the story forward. Anytime we cut back to her, I'm like, oh, I want to go back to the vault. I want to go back to, these characters to see what Yelena's up to, what Red Guardian's up to, what Bucky's up to. And even Bucky to an extent, until he kind of gets with the Thunderbolts later in the film, as we've seen in the trailers. But yeah, we even seen that clip that's come out where he's like, yeah, you were a congressman for like half a day or whatever amount of time.
Half a term, I think.
Half a term. It's just like, it's an interesting story point, especially because the last story we just got in Brave New Worlds, it's him campaigning, it's him running to get that Congress seat. And now we're getting this side where it's like literally 2 months later, it's like, you know what? He's kind of not part of that anymore. So it's just like, it's an interesting setup. And I'm really curious if that's more part of the larger kind of course correction that the MCU was trying to take. And like, okay, we've already established that he's doing this, so we have to touch on it a little bit here. But I just think the political side of the story in Thunderbolts didn't work as much. What worked is what the MCU did so well in the first 3 phases, and a lot in the other phases too, but really in the first 3 phases is you're giving us great characters, you're giving us great character moments, and you're giving us great performances that we are rooting for these characters to succeed. We're getting such great emotional moments. And when I think about, in a lot of other Marvel films, we brought this up with Multiverse of Madness, with the Marvels, with so many other Marvel projects. We're like, man, the baggage in this movie. You're talking about a million other movies and now Disney Plus series and all this other stuff that people have to catch up on. Thunderbolts should have been the worst offense to all of those, because you are bringing together, other films. You're bringing together characters who have now shown up in Hawkeye, like Yelena, who have shown up, Ghost in Ant-Man that we haven't seen her. Sorry, Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp from 2018 now. So it's like, we haven't seen this character for so long. We're getting characters who are in Black Widow. We're getting characters from Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. This film should not work, but it does such a great job of catching you up, giving you an idea who these characters are. And not once was I just like, okay, where's this person from again? How does this work? What's their dynamic? It's like, no, it just works. And I think because of the setup, the kind of, what was that film from a few years ago with Brie Larson, Cillian Murphy, where they have to like all kill each other?
Free Fire. It kind of like putting them in that Free Fire scenario at the beginning where they're all just trying to take each other out. Like, that's all you need to get everyone caught up. I'm like, okay, I get who these characters are because I'm learning about these characters through how they act, not just them throwing out exposition. And yeah, there's going to be lines of exposition in it, but it never felt so egregious. We're like, oh, you're really trying to catch people up about who these characters are. And again, Florence Pugh, I think, is the heart and soul of this film. I think, Sebastian Stan, who has now been in the MCU for like 15 years almost, is still bringing new layers of depth to Bucky. I think David Harbour is so fun as Red Guardian. Again, Black Widow is one of those films that there was a lot that did not work in that movie. There was a lot of cool characters, some cool moments in that film. But when you have Yelena and you have Red Guardian coming forward, they found a way to make them work. And it just makes me so excited to see their futures in the MCU. There is a Thunderbolts character who you could probably guess who does not get a lot of screen time. And it's shocking how it's handled. I think it was like, oh, okay, we're just doing this. That was a little off-putting at the, while watching this film. But again, the movie carries on and then it kind of just gets deeper into these characters, into the emotions. So I didn't think about it too much, but it's also one of those things where like, oh, okay, wow, we're just handling it this way.
It's strange because when you see that sequence, you're like, okay, this movie's going to take some risks. And at the end of it, it kind of has like a nice, neat little package to it. And I wish it took more risks to really set in stone what the Thunderbolts represent in the MCU and what the next couple of movies will kind of be in the MCU, especially now that they're shooting Doomsday. Like, we were talking about this in the car that I can't believe this movie's supposed to be out a year from now. And really, there's not much story or background story to kind of lead us to that. And we only have Fantastic Four after this. And I don't know if we have any Disney Plus series.
Ironheart, which I doubt will get more connections to Avengers than that.
Yeah. I wish the Void as a villain of this movie had a lasting impact that really challenged the MCU and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it really made an impact and kind of led us into some really dark territory. Because I found the Void, whenever the characters entered the Void and just had these memories of what their lives were as the Void kind of like seeks and he kind of like brings out of you, I wish they were more darker and more sinister, because in the comic books it's very sinister. It's the Void is a very pariah type of level parasite that really goes into your mindset and takes your darkest, deepest emotional elements and then kind of like brings them out in front of you. I wish they kind of did that with this. It was a little bit surface level for me. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I was beaten as a kid, which I understand that's terrible, but I needed more. I needed that A24 vibe from it.
It looked cool, though. It looked really cool. Like, I think they nailed the look of the Void in this film. I think Pullman gave a great performance, kind of balancing all the different sides of that. But I think Anthony is so right. I wish it went a little bit deeper on not necessarily emotion, but just kind of like what this character is struggling with and what they're dealing with. I definitely think we could have gone a little bit deeper on the Void and on the Sentry side of things. But I'd love to know for either of you. I think one of the big questions that we had, or the internet had too, when this was announced, was like, oh, this is going to be like Marvel's Suicide Squad. And did you ever get Suicide Squad vibes while watching this? Did you think about that at all? Anthony, you're shaking your head. I'll start with you, and then Shay, you could jump in afterwards.
Well, like if we look at it as like the violence, no. The language, definitely not. And even like the headbutting, which I think they needed more of, like a lot of more headbutting between these characters and like trying to find their groove. I think they needed more of that. So Suicide Squad, maybe like negative 2.0 Suicide Squad. Like it's a very tapered down Suicide Squad, but because the Suicide Squad are pretty like they're messed up people. Like those are real bad criminals that showcase how bad they are in terms of what the missions they go on. But yeah, I think the Suicide Squad is a whole different level than the Thunderbolts.
Shahbaz, how about you?
Yeah, I didn't get that vibe at all. I understand, like now that you're saying it, like where people might be coming from when saying that, but no, I didn't really get that vibe.
That's good. I did want to call out the score in this film from Sun Lux, who also did the score for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Incredible, I think, really great soundtrack. It's one that I'm like waiting to drop because there were some really cool moments. The cinematography in this film too, from Andrew Dross Palermo. There's a sequence that we all were kind of looking at each other where it's kind of like an over the head shot, but it's kind of sideways, and the light's coming from the left side of the screen, and it's Yelena taking down this corridor of people. But because the light's coming from the left side of the screen, the shadows are massive in the middle. It looked so cool. And again, it's what Shay said in the beginning, where you're just like, what a breath of fresh air to see a movie that actually looks like a movie, that is not just something where we're getting these super tight close-ups. Again, I don't know how, there's a lot of MCU films that I'll revisit, especially from the earlier years. There's not a lot that I revisit more recently, other than like Guardians and things like that. But it's one of those things like, man, I don't know how I could go back and revisit Brave New Worlds after this, because there is like a line drop in it. But it's like, man, like what a amazing thing to see a movie that just looks so great. No CG that ever looks egregious or out of place.
It's funny you say that, because there's a movie that I really love in the MCU that I revisited over the weekend. My cousin was watching it, and I was like, he's 9 years old, 8 years old. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll watch it with you because I love this movie. And I was so shocked as to how not pretty it looked, like how it hasn't aged well in terms of its look. It looked now like so much like the Marvel movies that we're kind of seeing today, where they're just flat on a screen, stationary camera, not really moving much, not really showing much of it. And it was Thor Ragnarok. Again, a movie that I love. I think it's so funny, but when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is really hard to look at. This doesn't look like a movie. This looks like what started the trend of making Marvel movies in a confined space and not really giving them a personality beyond just the writing. But yeah, when I was watching Thunderbolts, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Marvel movies can be this. It's been a while. And I'm so glad we're getting back to it. I really don't think there's much to really pick out from this film that the trolls on the internet could really just dissect and be like, well, this is what you're happy about. Like, like that I don't think exists.
Are they robots?
They sound like trolls. They sound like gremlins.
That's what they are. Gremlin trolls,
Yeah, you did a good troll gremlin voice, dude.
Thank you.
It was good.
I appreciate it.
Do it again.
Anthony sucks.
Oh, there you go. See, that's just one of the comments you probably received.
Again, it sounds like we're doing I am Avatar. Like
I'm from Planet Danger. That's a little Canadian reference,
I think.
Oh my gosh.
I think what makes this movie stand out from all the other MCU films is it has a great balance of stuff. So it has a great balance of the action and the performances and the comedy and the story and introducing new characters, and it just really works well in this practical way where it's not, like you guys said, it takes place on a stage. And I think it's really like just that chemistry of these characters and just how well they work together. And I guess in that sense, it feels very much like Suicide Squad, because I thought the last Suicide Squad and the chemistry between all these different characters and their powers really worked with one another, and they all like were able to build upon each other. And so is this film. Like, it feels like, okay, like I can see these characters in the long run in the MCU. It's not like they're a one and done deal and they kind of go off and do their other things. And like, I think Yelena is the best part of this film. And I think Florence Pugh is just a really great actress, and she really shines as this character. Even the whole father-daughter vibe that, you get with the Guardian, the Red Guardian, it feels like, man, like these two were great together in Black Widow, and now we get to see him outside of that. But yeah, I think it's that the chemistry just works well.
It does. Let's get to our final recommendations for Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts. Shahbaz, I'm going to get you to start us off.
I think this is a definite watch it. It's there's a lot of really fantastic moments in this movie. Despite some of the pacing issues and some of the negatives that we did call out on, I think there's still so much to love about this film. And I think watching it in IMAX is really one of the best ways to see it, because that aspect ratio being so much bigger than you're expecting is just wonderful, and seeing those big action moments happen on a big screen like that make it all worth the while. Daniel, like you mentioned, I can't wait for that Sunlux score to come out, because those three gentlemen have crafted something that is just so engaging and so entertaining. I'm excited. I really hope there's some cool Thunderbolts A24-esque style merch that comes out down the road, because I'm sure all three of us would love to get our hands on it.
Yeah, they gotta capitalize on that, right? They have to do it. Now, I also, really quickly before I get to my reaction, there is definitely a lot to talk about, especially where this movie ends. And I think all of us were shooketh with how this movie ends and the kind of the direction that they decide to go into. So I'm very excited for us to talk about that.
Not even including the post-credits.
Not even the post-credits. No, just the ending of this film. It's like, wow, that's a very interesting choice. I'm excited to get to that. But that's all to say that I think the Thunderbolts, when Marvel is making movies like the Thunderbolts, that's when they're at their best. They're making a movie that is focused on the characters, focused on the heart, and uses action in a way that is not just a means to an end. This is something that you're using it where it's so impactful. And I think Jake Schreier and the entire team behind this film, whether it's the score or the cinematography, everything, it's a really well-made movie. It is so fun. Like we said, yes, it definitely has its issues, but I just fell in love with this world. I fell in love with these characters, and I remembered why I love the MCU so much. And it's movies like this, it's characters like this that make it so easy to fall in love with this world again. And it made me, for the first time in a while, very excited to see what the future holds in the MCU. And I'm just here for it. Definitely watch it. Anthony.
I totally agree with you. I think it's a watch it. I think like I said, for me, the second part of this film became a little boring, and I kind of lost my attention. But I think the overall feel of this film is so different and so unique, and it works well in the MCU. It reminds you of the older MCU. And I think it's because of the chemistry of the actors, the performances, the practicality of a lot of the sequences, and doesn't feel CG over usage of CG. It just feels like a solid film. And I think the biggest thing for me that I took away was, like, for a film that's not shot in IMAX, it really feels like it was, because of a lot of the low angle sequences. And one of my biggest complaints is when a movie's not using the IMAX aspect ratio and you're just there watching it in the letterbox format and it's just on an IMAX screen, it kind of sucks. Well, this really showcases that expanded aspect, and it showcases like those wide establishing shots, the biggest, sequences with Sentry in the air and Yelena jumping off this building, which I feel like they spent a lot of time showcasing that stunt, and I feel like they should have made it such a bigger stunt than just what we got in the film, because it
live in that moment a lot more.
It would have been
100%.
so, because a lot of the action sequences in this film are very small and very short. And man, we could have elaborated on a lot of these things. But yeah, I think the cinematography stands out a lot for this film, and that's where it's a lot different than other MCU films.
Yeah, we got to get back to putting the craft back in these movies, and not to say that there isn't in the other films, but I feel like there's such an attention to detail in the Thunderbolts that we haven't gone in a while in the MCU. So I'm just really excited to see what the future holds, and we're very excited to see what Fantastic Four has for us, because hopefully, I think of all the MCU films this year, that's the one that we have the highest hopes for from everything that we've seen so far. So fingers crossed, we'll be back talking about it in July. But that's a review of Thunderbolts. We have so much going on here at the Movie Podcast. Make sure you tune in on YouTube, on podcast feeds, wherever you are. The Movie Podcast is there. If you want to follow us, if you want to give us 5 stars, everything you need to know is in the show notes and description below. Stay tuned for all of our interviews for this film. We have some really cool things ahead, some really awesome surprises, and you do not want to miss a thing. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.